Well, let's see. The first healing that I encountered would have been when I was out cutting the trails in the woods that I used to run on. And I was cutting back by where the kids and I used to have campfires at. And I felt something hit my ankle. And I didn't pay much attention to it. I just cut a little more. And I felt something kind of wet then, and I looked down and there was just like blood all over my ankle, my sock, going into my tennis shoe, and there was something poking out of my ankle. Incredibly, I felt no pain. Walked back, all the way back to the house, and then I remembered that I had left the gas can out by the kids' fort, and it was hot out. I said, I better go get the gas can. I could just think about that gas can kind of blowing up or something and catching the woods on fire. So naturally I went back and got it. By this time my whole tennis shoe is just soaked with blood. I started to feel kind of weak. So I went in the house and my daughter was in there. I asked her to call 911. I felt very, very weak, and I felt like I was going to pass out. God just led me to put my head under the kitchen sink, turn the cold water on, and just put my head under the cold water. That's what I did. Stayed that way until the ambulance got there. Immediately when I was put into the ambulance, my body started to go into shock because of the loss of blood. And I do believe that had I passed out there in the kitchen on the floor, I don't know if I would have made it. I believe keeping my head under that sink, under that freezing cold water, that was really God's intervention to keep me from passing out, and it worked. Made a recovery. It was a piece of wire from a mattress. It was another incredible thing that this wire, right before it hit the bone, or as it hit the bone, I guess, it bent. Instead of going into my bone and shattering my ankle bone, it actually bent when it hit the bone. The doctor couldn't believe it, that it was actually bent, because he thought he was going to have to call in a surgeon, and he's thinking the bone is shattered in little pieces. It left a puncture wound, which took the doctor, probably took him a good hour or more to actually clean that out. It'd be stitched very loosely because it was a puncture wound and it had to keep draining. But I made a full recovery, praise the Lord, and was back running, back on the trails within a week or two. That was the first healing that I recall. I'm sure there were many more before and in between the next ones, but that was the first prominent one that I recall.
Like the first bird, praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.